Welcome to Chochom on the Daf. She responds to Luinishva Sarim B'Yakosholm Le'Abbas Yitzchok. We're holding Bo Basra of Kuf Chof Zayin. The Gemara Mudalef brings one of the places we find in Shas. The Rava said something, and then they proved him wrong. They brought a brisa against him. Rava put in a moira, someone who announces his shir in front of him. V'darash devarim shamarti lachem tahusim biyodi. He came and said, what I said was a mistake, and he went back at what he said. The Tashbetz, in his Pirush and Ovis, Perek Hey Mishnah Zayin, Pirush called Mogin Ovis, on the Mishnah that speaks about Shiva Dvarim that you have by Chochom and the opposite you have by Goylim, says there, the Tashbetz, you should know that a Chochom is somebody who can admit he made a mistake. And he says this thing already starts with Moshe Rabbeinu. We found in Chumash and Sefer Vayikro, that when Moshe Rabbeinu questioned Aaron, and then he said, "Vayishma Moshe vayitov be'eino." Chazal say, "Hoidav v'loy boish." He admitted he made a mistake. Says the Tashbetz, we really learned this from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, what we saw in our Masechta, "Ken b'noi slofchas dofer." What Slofchas said is right. Now, obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't make a mistake because there was a question that was made. But Kiviyach HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I agree with what you said. You're saying something right, and I agree with you. And this is a limud to us that a person should realize, should be able to say, you know, what I said is wrong. I agree with what you're saying. And then he goes on and brings several places we find throughout Shas where Tanoim and Amoraim changed their mind when they realized they made a mistake. And then he brings all the places. The Rava says, "Dvar shamayt yeflechem tosi biyodi." As he brings a Gemara in Zvachim, our Gemara in Yeshnoichlim, Perek Tinoikis, Perek Mavoy, Perek El Trefus, Perek Meisha, Perek Korim V'Kedushin, etc., etc. And ends the Tashbetz and it says, this is what a Chochom does. A Chochom is someone who can learn from his mistakes, and he's not embarrassed to say that he's making a mistake. But the Goylim, as the Mishnah there in Novus puts it together, the Goylim is someone who's the opposite. That even though he knows he made a mistake, he still holds on to his words. So he will not be able to admit that he made a mistake. And as this dead Seifim finds that in the Tashbetz and Tshuva, Chelik Gimel Siman Reish Behei, there the Tashbetz speaks about a heter that a Chochom gave to a Yavam and he's coming to argue on him. So he starts by saying, don't think that if I'm going to come and say this Chochom made a mistake, so I'm miskabed beklon chaveri. He says it's not a kolon, it's not an embarrassment, so I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Even Sanhedrin make a mistake. So then Yotza hefset teuto b'schar hoido osor lachzor le'emes. When a person made a mistake and based on that mistake he changes, he said I made a mistake, that means he took that mistake that he made and he used it to be moida le'emes. He's using that as a bridge to be able to correct himself. And Adrab, the biggest calling, says the Tashbetz, is someone who does not want to say that he made a mistake. He doesn't want to admit that he said something wrong. Now, okay, add to this one more thing. Because the Gemara in Gidin Dafim Gimel, which also speaks about Rabbi Rav Huna that made a mistake, adds a sentence. The Gemara brings a pasuk v'amachsheila hazois tachas yotcha, ein adam oimel divrei Torah elim ken nichshal behem. Meaning not only that make a mistake is something that person learns through his mistakes, but one cannot really learn Torah well unless he made a mistake. And Rabbi Tzaddik HaKohen speaks about it in a few places, and he says in the Likutei Ma'amorim, in the beginning of the Sefer and Sefer Yeshua, he says, what's pshat in this? Because really we have always a conflict. Are we doing things on our own? Are we doing our ishtadlus? Or HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing it for us? And the answer is that we have the duality. A person needs to do ishtadlus, but to recognize that whatever he does comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He can't just stay still and wait for Hashem to do it. He needs to do ishtadlus. But even though he does ishtadlus, he needs to come and understand it's coming from Hashem. He says that's why Divrei Torah work that way. A person tries his best to understand. But then he makes a mistake and he understands whatever he gets is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His ishtadlus is to come and try to understand. His mistake shows him that the only way for him to really know Torah is only because HaKadosh Baruch Hu's meir is enough. So the mistake is indeed the stepping stone, the way for a person to elevate himself in order to get to the true avono in Divrei Torah. Anyone who wants to join the Chochom email list to what's to go, please email shomachshava@gmail.com.